What up, people? Welcome to the Finance Rebel Show. As always, I'm your host, Kamari Ellis. Tonight, we're going to talk about something we talked about before, but we haven't talked about in quite some time, right? But tonight, we are going to talk about how couples should handle money. Money in marriage. I always get a lot of questions on it. And so today, I figured it would be a good time to revisit it because I saw an article that came up talking about it, basically saying, who should have the accounts or how should we split these accounts? And so I figured again it would be a good time to talk about it. But again, I'm Kamari Ellis, the Finance Rebel. Welcome to the Finance Rebel Show where we talk about money. Always, right? Stocks, taxes, business, economics, black wealth, especially if it's about money, it's on the table. And so again, we are talking about the business of marriage because marriage is a business. A lot of people don't realize it, but it is a business. So I'm seeing some of the people starting to file in. I've been traveling a little bit. I'll talk to you about that a little bit in later days, but went to a couple of tax conferences. I'll tell you all about it. But today, again, I wanted to talk about marriage, not just marriage, right? Because we are in a new age. It is 2022. People are in serious, committed, long-term committed relationships, and they're not necessarily jumping the broom or getting married, but they're together. They're having children together. They're buying homes together. They're getting businesses together. So it's not just for traditional relationships; it's for all relationships at this point. At this point, so let's get ready to get into this again. Glad everybody's here. I'm seeing Angela's in the building. Hey, 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 hey. Jose, what's up? What's up? What's up? Okay. Jose's chiming in already. Says I'm guessing Grandma Gma always told me there should be 3 accounts in the house. Yours, mine's, and ours. You could do it for hours, I'm guessing, right? That new song. I mean, that's one way to do it. But what I find is that many of relationship or couple advice is a little bit antiquated, and it kind of goes down to yours, what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours, and whoever else gets it whenever they get it. But relationships are a bit more complex now. They're not as simple as the 1950s, where the man was the breadwinner, ladies stayed home, and they made the bacon. Man brought the bacon home, ladies brought the bacon, or made the bacon, rather. It's a little bit different these days. So you have to think about that. And I know a lot of people are a little uncomfortable with all the changes that's been going on with the change in the demographics, the change in overall lifestyle, the change in money, right? Overall, because women are making money these days. It's not just the man making the money. A lot of times, the ladies, the sisters, are making more money than the men. A lot of men are having a problem with that. And actually, a lot of the women are having a problem with it as well. So again, wanted to talk about that. I'm not going to stay on too long, but definitely want to talk about that. But I wanted to talk about this from a more holistic standpoint, right? So I wrote down a couple things, right? A couple things you got to think about when you're dealing with money and relationships, right? So one, you got to think about the person's conversation style, right? Do they like to talk? Do they not like to talk? Right? Is it like pulling teeth when they talk or talking with them? Because I always say to folks, right? Many people believe that money and finances is the source of divorce and relationship failure. I say it's a lack of communication on all parties involved, right? So communication style is very, very, very important. All right. Other thing I like to talk about too is that conflict style. A lot of people have different conflict styles. Some people fight, some people flight or fly. They won't deal with it. And a lot of times people don't understand how to come to a happy medium with that. All of those things come into factor, right? All right. How do people make money? Like I just said, dynamics are changing. Women are making more money. Now, again, I know a lot of people say, well, I like the traditional style of marriage and relationships where the man made the money, the woman had no say, couldn't own property a lot of times. I know they're not saying that. I'm exaggerating a little bit. But if you really want to get into it and get back to what's quote unquote traditional, woman ain't have no say. Man made the money. Woman just made whatever the man brought home. Again, that's all changing now, right? You have to figure out what kind of relationship do you want to be? And do both of y'all want to be in the same type of relationship? Hopefully y'all have figured that out already, but a lot of people haven't figured it out and they're in a relationship and they don't know what to do. All right. But how does the man make the money? How does the woman make money? Right? Are they 9-to-5 workers? Are they side hustlers? Are they self-employed? Do they have full-fledged businesses? Right? All of these dynamics have to be thought about when it comes to making the money. It's not just about, it's just this, straight linear conversation. How many bank accounts do you have? Who pays the bill? Who doesn't pay the bills? It's so much more complex. It's so much more nuanced than that these days, right? All right. Other thing, I hear people talk about this, right? Banking, right? That's one of the topics we'll touch on tonight as well. Should it be a separate account, joint account, or both, or none, right? That's some of the things we got to think about. Insurance, health insurance, life insurance, disability insurance. Nobody really talks about disability insurance, but those are the things that you want to talk about. So again, when we're talking about money, we're talking about relationships. We want to have holistic conversations. We don't want to just have soundbite conversations. They need to be, in my opinion, right? This is why communication style matters. But in my opinion, they should be full, in-depth, transparent conversations. Okay. Taxes. Now, everybody talks about pulling your credit reports before you get married. I say you should pull your IRS tax transcripts before you get married. Let me repeat that again because I jumbled the words. Everybody talks about getting or pulling credit reports, right? The FICO scores before they get married or when they get into a serious relationships. I say you should pull your tax transcript reports. Actually, you should pull both, right? But in my opinion, the tax transcripts are more important than the credit reports. Why? Because oftentimes the IRS or taxing agency can come seize your stuff and put a lien on it and will stop everything. And some credit card companies and banking institutions can do that too. But everybody knows the weight of the IRS is a lot heavier than a credit card company or a bank. But when we're talking about this microwave age we live in and how it's heavily driven by a lot of the quote unquote social media financial gurus that woke up and read an article or a pamphlet 2 days ago and now are geniuses in money, they're not talking about that. They're not talking about that. So you want to think about, right? You want to think about that as well. Also, retirement accounts. What's going on with them? Do y'all have plans, right? What are the beneficiary designations on those? Basically, who are you leaving the money to? Again, we talk real surface about money, but when it's time to get to what's really, really important, we miss some of those steps. So again, I wanted to talk about that, right? And the last thing on the list is I wanted to talk about what state you reside in. Because the state you reside in will also have, could also have major impact in how money will be handled in your relationship. But as we get going, everybody please check in. Let me know your name. Let me know where you're hailing from. And tell me, what do you think about relationships and money? Who should handle the money? Who should make the money? Who should spend the money? All right, but let's get into this. Again, I wanted to share an article that I saw earlier today from the Atlantic talking about couples. The name of the article is Should Couples Merge Their Finances? Right? Should couples merge their finances? And so it just in that question, it's super duper loaded. It's super duper loaded because if couples are merging their lives, you would think that they're going to merge their finances as well. But again, in this day and age, things are different, right? We also have more people who are in second or third marriages or relationships. And a lot of times they don't want to do that. So again, I'll say this, and I say it all the time, right? Personal finance is personal. Anybody subscribing anything to you with a cookie cutter prescription is wrong from the back. You know why? Because everybody's situation is different. All right. Remember that everybody's situation is different. Everybody's situation needs to be custom, tailor fit to your situation. So, you have to keep that in mind. You got to keep that in mind. Now, I wanted to go over this article because I thought it was pretty interesting. Again, from the Atlantic by Joe Pisker, I believe that's how you say his name. Okay. Should couples merge their finances? I'm not going to go through this whole article, but I made notes on it. There's a couple of things in there, right? So couple chooses about how to share. I'm messing up everything. Couples' choices about how to share money require trade-offs between togetherness and autonomy, right? And if anybody's been in any kind of long-term relationship, normally there is a tug and pull on togetherness and autonomy. Now, I'm going to say this, right? I'm from the standpoint, I'm a little bit biased, right? But if you are with someone and you are deciding to be with them, you now have to go from I to we. You have to go from I to we. It's no longer just about I. We have to do what's in the best interest of we. However, again, like I said, there's no cookie cutter solutions. So then you have to approach it with a bit of a microscope, right? And with a bit of a laser focus. You can't just take a shotgun approach and just shoot everything at it and everything's going to get caught up in the spray. You got to be more exact. You got to be more precise. So again, you have a lot of different scenarios, a lot of different family makeups, and you have to custom tailor it to all of them. All right. So let's get back to this here. All right. So, let me turn that off. All righty. So, again, a couple points here. When Americans marry, their finances usually do too. The majority of married couples put all their income into shared accounts. Now, I hope everybody can see this. All right. Let me blow that up one more time. In the 1970s and 80s, not doing what was sometimes considered a bad omen for relationships, but that's no longer the case today. The share of committed couples, married or not, who keep at least some of their finances separate has risen in recent decades, in part because Americans tend to marry later, after they're already developed their own financial habits. So, what they say, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I actually hate that saying because I believe anybody can learn as long as they're open-minded and willing to learn, but they have to do the work. All right. So as norms have shifted, though, Americans haven't reached a consensus on which financial arrangements is best for relationships. Respondents in the 2016 survey were split almost exactly 50-50 on the question of whether a married couple should merge all their money. And two titans of American personal finance gives conflicting advice on the matter. Now, if y'all been rocking me for a while, and y'all see some of these names, y'all probably already know that I'm going to throw up. But it is what it is. All right. So Susie Orman has said I got to do it again. And another one for the other name I'm about to mention. But Susie Orman has said she would never, ever have just one joint account. Dave Ramsey has dismissed arguments for keeping separate accounts as a bunch of crap. I would say this: neither one of these people, in my opinion, are really qualified to talk about this. because they are here for entertainment. There's no education on their part, just entertainment. That's it. But I know people love them. They've got great fan bases. Respect you for that, for putting the time up. But sometimes we just got to call a thing, and they're both out of their depth. But they are, quote unquote, the now subject matter experts. Part of the problem why we have, probably part of the reason why we have so many problems. But again, the personal finance experts I spoke with recently tended to side more with Orman, advocating for a hybrid approach, sharing some money and keeping some money separate. And although no single system is going to be best for everyone, I tend to agree. Now, that is the person that is writing the article. Now, I like disagreeing because I agree with this. All right. The upside of couples combining all of their money is that it can promote a sense of unity as mine becomes ours, right? More practically, pooling resources can buffer both partners from ups and downs that they may experience with their respective finances. All right. So let's talk about that for a hot minute. Now, if anybody has ever really paid attention to the overall landscape and money as it, couples money as it relates to it, if anybody's ever read The Millionaire Next Door, a lot of times it's two couples working, not two couples, a couple working together, pooling their resources. And resources isn't just money, but for this conversation, let's say it's money. They're pooling their resources together to make and choosing to make some of the best decisions. Now, from my experience working with retirees and older couples, a lot of times for a lot of the old school couples, the man did make a large majority of the decision. But to stick on this particular topic right now, they were able to take both of their incomes, put them together, buy homes, buy cars, pay bills, save for retirement, save for vacations, create an overall savings, right? If one person lost work, a lot of times they lived on one salary. That's almost impossible these days, but they lived on one salary. And so they didn't see any disruption in their overall standard of living, right? Their standard of living was basically maintained. The other salary came in, helped to fund a lot of the other things. Now, again, other factors you have to factor in. Normally, one of the couples carries the life insurance. For example, I am self-employed. My wife carries our health insurance. And I have some health challenges, and it's a blessing that I have some coverage, right? So that is one of the benefits, but many times we kind of don't talk about that at all. We don't talk about insurance, any of the above, right? But that's just one situation that I want to point out right there. So there are advantages of pooling money together. All right, but let's dive back in to this article. Now, let's see. So, and surely many couples switch to fully shared accounts simply because that's how marriage has typically worked in previous generations. Of course, the precedent comes from a time when a woman was much less likely to do paid work than they are now. As women are coming into relationships having their own money. What is that? Right? Women have their own money. It's not going to change. As women are coming to relationships having their own money, they can facilitate the need for a conversation in the first place. Because again, oftentimes people didn't talk about anything, including money. It's almost taboo, and we see that in a lot of cultures. All right, so in fact, research indicates that couples who put all their money together, on average, more satisfied with their relationship. And this pattern is especially pronounced for low-income couples. But that isn't necessarily an argument for following. Well, I'm not going to go into that. It kind of goes into the weeds. All right, so this here says, one commonly reported downside, though, on putting everything in shared accounts is that couples sometimes question each other's spending decisions. Did we really need to spend our money on that? Keeping funds entirely separate will preserve the financial autonomy that many people want and are used to from their single lives. but it would also do away with that appealing sharedness Holmes was talking about. Now, I think this is a perfect example of what I was saying about communication, right? Yes, many times people do get into arguments over who brought this, who brought that, right? But a lot of times that's because there was no communication. And I'm not saying that a person should have to say, hey, I'm buying a pack of gum that's 50 cents. Well, gum's probably not 50 cents these days. Gum is probably like $1. I'm buying a pack of gum. Can I have permission to buy gum? No, I don't think it's that serious. However, if you're going out and let's say you like to buy bags, right? And you're spending $500 or more or $1,000 or more, you might want to have a conversation and say, hey, babe, think about buying a bag. Or if you're a guy and you like sneakers, you're a sneakerhead, and you're thinking about buying a brand new pair of J's and they're coming out in there $450, you might want to say, hey, babe, think about buying a new pair of J's. Do we have anything coming up that I should be thinking about? You know, do you think this is okay? Do we have enough cushion? Should I put more extra money in savings? You know, are there any outstanding bills, right? A full-fledged conversation like adults are supposed to have. Now, I know a lot of times we say adults, but I'm finding more and more as I get older, adults really are just grown children. But I'm pretty sure y'all all can relate, right? But again, as they say in this study, in this article, that sometimes people get in their feelings a little bit after they start to put money together because they feel powerless. And oftentimes you'll have in a relationship, you'll have one person who's a little bit more aggressive, and you'll have another person who's a little bit more laid back, right? Until they're not. And I think we probably all have seen when they're not, because then they get fed up, mad, and the whole thing could go kaboom, and it gets blown up real fast. But again, you'll have one person who's more outgoing. I don't want to say domineering because I think that's the wrong word, but more, let's say aggressive, right? Assertive. I think is a good word. It might be a little bit more assertive, and they might communicate a little bit better than one spouse in this situation. So sometimes, again, that can be very frustrating from what I've seen working with a lot of couples over the years. But it's important that both couples advocate for themselves. And sometimes the assertive one has to take a step back and say, hey, you're not communicating with me. I need you to communicate. So, that's something I see quite often. That's something I see quite often. All right, going through this, a few more things. All right, there's a bit of a debate about which system is more likely to lead to conflicts over spending, but the edge probably still goes to keeping some accounts separate. In 2011, in a series of articles in Slate weighing the merits of various arrangements, the journalist Jessica Gross noted that a hybrid approach means deciding and possibly bickering over what counts as personal or joint expense. But when she adopted that system with her husband, she wrote, she was relieved that those conversations were not so fraught after all. 10 years later, the couple is still happily hybrid, Gross told me recently. So again, it can be challenging. That's why communication style, communication strategy all comes into play when we're talking about money and relationships. All right, so it says, meanwhile, when you have one bucket, I think that's where you have more of the ongoing squabbles. It's like, well, I want to get a haircut, or I want to buy the newest technology, fill in the blank, and now I have to have a conversation about it. Well, it's only a problem having a conversation with your spouse if you don't like your spouse, right? Some people don't like to talk to their spouse. I find, this is my own anecdotal observation, right? That some of these people really don't like their spouses because they don't want to talk to them. They don't want to talk to them at all. So again, as we go through this, I think it's really, really important. All right, there's a couple more points I wanted to make, and then I'll get into how I see it. All right, so indeed, access to cash during a separation is important. But Captain Slaybaugh, a law professor at Boston University, points out that having individual accounts does not mean that at divorce you'll each walk away with your separate accounts, unless a couple signed a premarital agreement, also known as a prenup, stating otherwise. Every court in the nation has a legal standard by which they will take money that's in one spouse's name and transfer it to the others, a Slaybaugh said. All right. So then it said, even during a marriage, the notion that you can keep your finances truly separate is to some degree an illusion, right? Now they're talking about marriage, and they're talking about how some things go when marriages don't work. And again, I'm sure we've all have seen when marriages don't work, it can get ugly. And if you are married and you have what's called marital assets or marital property, again, it will depend on the state that you live in. Some states are community property states, some states are not. But that really, really factors into how your money will be handled if y'all were decide to end it and go your separate ways. So again, that all comes into play on what you're doing with your money as a couple and things you should be definitely thinking about. All right. Just a few more points and we'll definitely get to it. All right. The tension at the core of any financial relationship between autonomy and togetherness is really just a reflection of the tension that's at the core of marriage today. Balancing being an individual with being part of a committed unit. The way you feel about this trade-off in the context of marriage might shape how you feel about it in the context of money. So basically they're saying how you feel about marriage or how you feel about your spouse, your partner, and how you feel about your money, they will kind of all go together and they will reflect back on one another. So if you really aren't happy in the marriage, you're definitely not going to be happy with the money. No matter how smooth it can go, no matter how amenable one spouse is on the other, right? And if you're really not happy with the money, oftentimes you're not going to be happy with the marriage as well. So again, you have to really consider both positions. All right, technology is further whittling away the distinctions between different arrangements. Couples with separate accounts can get matching debit cards from a newish company called Avella, and any transactions with either card will pull from each partner's account 50-50, or with whatever proportion the couple chooses. It's like having a shared account without actually having a shared account. And I thought this was interesting, but I also was like, what's the point? Because if you're pulling all of the stuff 50-50 out of each separate account, why not just have a joint account and make life a lot simpler? But again, some people aren't going to do that. Some people are going to do that. But again, it's really interesting. But I like to talk about this topic. I like to talk about it as it relates to money, right? Marriage and money, finances and money, couples and money, because a lot of people struggle with it. A lot of times I get caught into quote unquote arguments, disputes, confrontations as the arbiter of what, of what's supposed to be right for their marriage. And again, everybody's relationship is different. Why? Because if you're bringing your whole self to a relationship, you both have different experiences. You don't have different worldviews. You have two different outlooks. Now, again, we all know marriage is supposed to be when the two becomes one. Well, in these days, it can be three becoming one or four becoming one, whatever the new flavor of the day is. But it's still supposed to be a meeting of the minds and hearts of all parties involved. And that can be hard where everybody comes at it from a different level. So that's why I like to talk about this, because when money gets involved, emotions tend to flare. And so again, hopefully you all who are watching can say, you know what, some of this may make sense. Maybe I do need to consider the conversation style. maybe I do need to consider whether they like to deal with confrontation or not. Maybe we should start going through and looking at some of the retirement accounts and how they're set up and what their designations are, what some of the designations are on the banking accounts, what some of the designations are on the insurance accounts. There's a reason why I keep talking about designations, because I've seen with married couples or couples, right? Here's an example. Lady worked at a school district, started before she was married. Previous to getting married, her mother was on all the accounts as the beneficiary designation. Insurance, pension, 401k or 457 plan, they're all on there. Lady gets married, finds the love of her life, gets married, but she never changes over any of the paperwork. Now the mom passes and then she winds up putting her sister on. Weird thing is, when she passed, the money didn't go to her husband, who survived her. It went to the sister. And then it became a whole big court battle and it was a whole big mess. But all of this could have been avoided had they been talking about money, had they been talking about the designations, had they been talking about where the money goes. It's a relationship. And a lot of times we shy away from some of these quote unquote so-called hard conversations about money where they really should be easy. So, that can become an issue. I've seen it become an issue. It's been widely reported on. But again, I like going through this because hearing somebody else express it, explain it, maybe getting some talking points, maybe hearing language discussed in a way that you might not necessarily think about it in, could be helpful a lot of times. So if you all have any questions about this as we go along, feel free to go ahead and fill them in the chat. Put a Q in front of the question, but I'll just kind of go along and keep talking about it. Like I said, conversation style, right? Consider that. Consider about your mate's conversation style. Are they a talker? Are they quiet? Are they a writer? Right? Do they not easily express themselves? Those are some of the things you want to think about. Again, a lot of times we get caught up in the surface level things and we never go deeper into the real nuance, into the real meat of a situation. So think about that. Again, conflict style. Do they deal with conflict? Do they run away from conflict? Right? And conflict could be the sky is blue and y'all disagree on that. So you want to get a sense of, how your partner deals with conflict. It could be something as simple as, here's a story for you. For some reason, a lot of times I get shut off notices from PECO, which is the electric utility here in Pennsylvania. I could have paid the balance in full and I still get a shut off notice. The hardest thing. Like a month before, I could have paid it in full a month before and I can still get a shut off notice. And it often drives me crazy. And then sometimes my wife will say, well, why the heck are we getting another shut off notice? Right? They'll give you, 15-day notice or something like that, and we got to pay it. So it's always frustrating sometimes because sometimes the conflict doesn't come from the relationship itself, but it's brought in from an outside source, a third party source, i.e., my electric company. So just keep that in mind when you're going through certain things and when you're dealing with monies and things like that, right? So also, how do y'all handle money? Who makes the money? Are you working 9 to 5? Are you working your business? Who's carrying the health insurance, right? At your job, what I would suggest everybody do, a lot of people don't do the show. Read the employee manual, read the benefits book. A lot of times there are gems, there's money, there's gold in those pages, whether it be discount programs, whether it be home ownership programs, whether it be stock purchase programs. A lot of it will be in the employee manuals or the benefits manuals, and a lot of people don't read them. So please, 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 please read those. Check those out. Okay, be sure to go through those. Again, then look and see who are on the beneficiary designations at your place of employment. All right. Figure out if you do work a 9 to 5, and let's say your spouse is a business owner, a budding entrepreneur, and maybe they work a 9 to 5 but are side hustling. How much money do you need to put away before one of you can step aside, or one of the entrepreneur, the side hustling spouse can step aside? How much money do you need in savings? Is it realistic? Or if it's not how much money you need in savings, how much money does the new side business need to be generating in order for the spouse to leave their job? That can be a source of angst for a lot of couples. So that's an issue. That's a major issue that everybody should think about. I mean, when you're presented that type of situation, and if they are going to step away, make sure you coordinate the insurance. Again, super duper important. Super duper important. Let's see. Bank accounts, separate, joint. Which one matters? I know couples that do both. Now, in a world that's all equal, right? I think everybody would have a joint account where they save an account, pay their joint bills together, or all their bills together, right? Because again, if you're not paying the bills together, it's still coming out of the household. I think that's something people don't realize, right? They can still have 2 separate accounts or 3 separate accounts, and they're like, all right, I'm going to spend over here, I'm going to spend over there. When you have multiple accounts, it becomes a bit harder to budget and manage because you don't always know what's coming and going, and everybody's not on the same page. I mean, again, marriage again is supposed to be about teamwork. It's supposed to be about building some things. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Figure out if even if you do have a separate account, right? And y'all have your joint account for your joint spendings, but do y'all need to talk about a purchase, a major purchase over a certain limit, or can everybody just buy whatever they want? I think it would probably be pretty good to say, you know what? It depends on your account, your income, but anything over $250, anything over $500, anything over $1,000 warrants a conversation. Y'all should agree on that in advance. So it ferrets out, it reduces any chance of any kind of complication or argument down the road. No need to go on that route because, again, what's happening. Somebody at some point is going to want some kind of major appliance, vehicle, accessory, what may have you. They're going to want it. It's going to happen, without a doubt. All right. Insurance. We talked about insurance, but again, look at your insurance, especially if you have children. Make sure you have adequate coverage. Make sure that the coverage, and I'm talking about life insurance right now, make sure that you have enough coverage to replace income if either one of the spouses can't continue to work in their passing, right? Now, if you got a whole lot of money, maybe this might be a different conversation for you, but most folks, that's usually not the case. And even if you do have a whole lot of money, there are a lot of tax benefits to having life insurance. So for most people, for like 99.9999% of the population, it makes sense to have life insurance. Now, again, should talk to your spouse about how much do you need, then figuring out what type of life insurance you should get. And, I've covered the different types of life insurance and other broadcasts. You all can go back in the archive on the YouTube channel and check those out. That's pretty easy. That's pretty easy to like really figure out, So keep that in mind. Taxes, who should file together, right? Or should you file separately? Who should claim the kids? Who should claim the kids? That's a big question. A lot of my newlywed couples ask a lot of times when they start thinking about, or now after, not when they start thinking about when they get married and tax time comes. Well, I'm gonna say this: everybody can take advantage of tax planning, right? Most people overpay in taxes. Now, you get the most benefits in the tax system when you are a business or an investor of some sort. Everybody's not built to do that. Everybody's not going to do that. However, everybody can take advantage of various tax benefits, right? One of them is actually the designation of being married and filing jointly. You get a bigger deduction than you do if you're what's called married filing separately. Now, there's some couples I know who don't even file that they're married, and they say they're single, or they say they're at a household because they're trying to get a bigger tax refund. That's a whole other conversation that we can save for another time. But you want to go through this. You want to learn what some of the ins and outs are of the tax code as it relates to marriage, how it can benefit you, how it's going to disadvantage you. So you want to be well aware of that way before tax season. If you are newly wedded, thinking about that, you want to start talking about that, researching that, thinking about that now. Okay. So again, that's something a lot of people, they think about, but don't think about. All right. And lastly, double check if you're working a job to see what your tax withholdings are. Know if you are going to potentially owe at the end of the year. The IRS has a wonderful, I shouldn't say IRS has wonderful anything, but the IRS has a wonderful like paycheck calculator or estimator. Let me see if I can find it and share with everybody. Let me see if I can find it. This is something y'all can do together. And it will cut down on a lot of problems in advance. So the tax withholding estimator, right? There are a lot of couples. Some couples pay plenty of money into the system. Some spouses pay nothing. When tax time comes, everybody's confused because they're like, why do I owe money? Why do I owe money? So instead of getting caught in a kerfuffle, right? Instead of getting caught with your pants down, you can say, you know what? I don't want to do this. I want to be proactive. I want to be proactive, and I want to know in advance what my tax situation is going to look like, so I don't have to wait till the last minute. Now, here is a tool I think everybody can benefit from, right? This is a tax withholding estimator. This is going to tell you how and if you are paying enough money in taxes every time you get your paycheck. All you do here is go to irs.gov/tax withholding estimator. You can just do a search of tax withholding estimator, right? So just blow this up here. You go on here and you answer some questions, and it'll let you know if you are going to owe, or if you're paying enough or you're not paying enough, right? If you're going to owe, or potentially if you're going to get a refund. Now, this only works, not if it only works, it works best when it's just for wages. Now, if you have some other things going on, if you have rental properties, dividend stocks payments, rental properties, or business, anything like that, it might be a little bit off, but it helps get you in the ballpark. And that's the most important thing. That's the most important thing. All right. And also, going into it, right? So thinking about the taxes, looking at your retirement account, again, making sure your beneficiary designations are selected properly, making sure that you and your spouse are saying, hey, how much money are we going to need in retirement? Will we be able to live the same lifestyle we have now once one of us stops working or both of us stop working? Do we have enough money set aside so that we can, turn that money into a paycheck, continue to pay our bills, continue to buy food, continue to travel and buy clothes, and go out and just do things that's a part of your overall lifestyle. All of those things are super duper important, super duper important. All right. And lastly, again, what state do you reside in? Understand how your state handles marriage. Some states are community property states, some states are not. All right. But again, it's on you. You got to do the work. You got to do the due diligence. I hear people complain all the time. Well, they never taught us this in school. Okay. But guess what? You got Google now. Google don't have all the answers, y'all, but it will get you on the right road to say, I need to start doing some research. And if you can't figure it out on Google, you can always call a professional, pay a professional to help you out with some of these sticky situations. It will save you way, normally 10 times X more than you would not having a professional 9 times out of 10. All right, so let's jump into this. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the comments and we will get to them. So Angela's in the building. Jose is in the building. Coley Cole, what's up, bro? How you doing? Ain't talking to you about. All right, so you are in Jersey. Cool. All right, so Cole says, I found myself having to discuss justifying buying bikes. Mountain bike, road bike, gravel bike, can never have enough bikes. But what I did was go secondhand and brand new on only one bike. That was the collaborative goal we reached. My other bikes are all secondhand bikes. Okay. Other thing you might want to do or think about too is get into the business of selling bikes, or maybe get into bike repair, right? Figuring out how to make your love for bikes a business, right? So then your business can pay for your bikes. So, I mean, but yeah, that's good. I'm glad y'all having a conversation about it. And again, the reason why I'm bringing up conversation is a lot of us, we get into money, but we're not talking about it with our spouse, with our significant other. Thunder's in the building. What's up, Thunder? How you doing, brother? All right, said I just heard about Kellogg's. Everybody's interested in this Kellogg's. I didn't think anybody's going to be interested in this. I read about this first thing this morning at like 6:30 this morning in the Wall Street Journal. All right, I will cover that tomorrow just for you, Thunder, and a couple other people that asked me about it today. I'm not sure if they made the decision, but they're talking about breaking them up into 3 different companies. A cereal company. There's the cereal company. I think they have it's a cereal company. That's for like the older cereals, and then kind of the new alternative food sources, or new, I don't want to call it green, but what am I calling it? What a new health conscious foods, right? I think that's one of them that's pretty aggressive, and that's a sign off. Basically what they're trying to do is spin off the old brands that aren't doing that much and spin off the new brands that are the new hotness, and letting them get, more traction and can do more things. But I'll cover that tomorrow. I'll cover that in depth tomorrow. All right, so Angela Jefferson's in the building. How are you? All right, and you're in Jersey as well. Okay. And Angela, we got all the Angelas in the house. Hey, Angela Williams, how are you? All right, so Thunder, listen, I always give you your props. Have you seen the interest rates in the series I bonds, right? So I did a whole video on it. I think Thunder brought it up when it was like 7.4%, right? Thunder brought that to the community and shared it with us. The interest rate now, the I bonds are like 9.60%. I probably should go and make a new separate video for that, but I've talked about that on a lot of interviews and things like that. I think it makes a lot of sense to buy those. You could buy them for $25 a clip, and I believe each individual can own, it's either 5,000 or 10,000 a piece, but it's risk free. anytime you're thinking about investing, you got to think about the risk. And since the federal government issues these I bonds, inflation bonds, they track inflation. Inflation is the highest it's been in the last 40, almost 50 years. Interest rates are up on them. So it's a great place to park cash instead of your typical bank account right now. So yeah, I've been talking about it. I've been looking at it. And yeah, I probably will do another go around, another video on that as well soon as well. So let's see. But I will definitely right, 10K and business entities. Yes, business entities can have I bonds as well. Thank you, Y'all Harrison. That's my tax sister right there. Welcome. So yeah, I've been looking at it. I've been advocating for them. I think again, it's to me, it's a no brainer. Not mortgage rates. Bank rates are still super duper low. Still paying like 0.5%. You can easily just start putting money in the I bonds and get 100 times that almost. I mean, so it to me again, it's a no brainer. It's a no brainer. Go check out those I bonds. Now, again, they are risk free, but if you don't hold them for at least a year, you will get some penalties. Not a whole lot, but guess what? You'll never lose your capital. You'll only lose some interest on those. And that's the penalty. So again, getting back to, money and relationships. The reason why, in my opinion, this is so important is that in any community, you're only as strong as the families. Families make up communities. Communities make up nations, right? The stronger our communities are, the stronger we'll be overall. I mean, just think about how many people get into arguments over money. And again, I know everybody says finances are the number one factor for divorce. I don't believe that. I believe it's communication. Because if you communicated about the money and again put action behind that communication, it wouldn't be as much of an issue. It wouldn't be as much of an issue. But a lot of times feelings get in the way, egos get in the way, and we never really work to resolve the overall issues because it's usually an underlying issue. Like money's usually never the issue. It's always something else for everything. It's always, and I'm talking about money overall, money globally, right? People can't make enough money. Why? A lot of times they don't have high self-esteem. So they never go out and try to get more money. Thus, that creates a breakdown in the marriage because nobody's talking about this. They're talking about their desires of doing things and going places and wanting to live a different life. But one person's self-esteem isn't in order, so they never go for it because they don't believe in themselves. It's not a money issue. It's a self-esteem issue. But again, nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about that. All right, Angela's out there sounding the horn, letting everybody know that I am live. I'm about to get off though, but I appreciate that. As always, please like, comment, and share. Please like, comment, and share. And again, I want to cover Kellogg's tomorrow. So if you have any questions about Kellogg's and this new potential breakup, I will be covering it tomorrow. All right. Thunder got me before I got off. Okay, Thunder said, yes, we should focus on building wealth. When you see it start growing, it's really a great feeling. And when you see it grow, you'll keep it up. Trust me. Yes, absolutely. Especially if y'all doing it together. And I'm speaking of in relationships, right? Because that's the context of tonight's conversation, or that's the theme of tonight's conversation. So you would think more people work a little bit harder at this thing that we call money, because again, money issues are never really about money issues. Money issues are always some other underlying issue, whether it's the husband or wife husband and wife mad at each other because the wife brought a bag, the husband brought a game, a Switch or some kind of Nintendo or something like that, and they ain't talking about it, right? If y'all gonna be a team, be a team. And all the best teams, talking about sports right now, the ones that win championships are the ones that communicate the most. All right, so Thunder asks, what do you think about the Amazon stock split? So this is what I think about the Amazon stock split, the Google stock split, the Shopify stock split, the Tesla stock split. They're all marketing gimmicks. That's all they are. Now that we have the advent of fractional shares, it doesn't matter that, Amazon was what, $2,400, almost $2,500 before it split. Now, I think I talked about this. I did buy like 5 shares of Amazon when it split. But I was already buying fractional shares in Amazon before. But guess what? They're ramping it up. They get ready for Prime Day, which is coming up soon. Something to bring more attention to the company. And I believe Tesla is going to do another, or they talked about doing another stock split. Another way to get attention to the company. And Elon Musk is one of the masters of that. He's always trying to figure out different ways to get attention. I don't really believe, and I know I'm going to get checked for this. Everybody gets mad. They think I'm an Elon hater. I'm just commentating on what I see. Because every time he tries to do some kind of publicity stunt, it's not something that's necessarily adding value to anyone. It's just great for him and his assets. And I get it. It's great PR, great marketing, great brand building, as some of the experts would say. But at the end of the day, just make the company create more great products and develop more great services and deliver them. At this point, Tesla is such a monster, you don't really need any more marketing, so to speak. You don't need any more publicity stunts. Just do the work. And listen, I'm a big fan of marketing. Marketing is, or can be, very, very powerful. But at some point, you got to wonder, do we need to say Tesla's buying Bitcoin now when it's truly not? It was being used as a way to get deposits. So, I get it, but for me, it's not that deep. All right, y'all. So listen, I will be back tomorrow, and, for Wealthy Wednesdays, and we will talk about Kellogg. So make sure y'all here tomorrow, 8 p.m. I'll be here to talk about Kellogg. All right, y'all. Y'all have a great night. I appreciate you all being here. And tell a friend, and tell a family member. Until the next time, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Have a great night. Bye-bye.